In this lesson, we'll be using a RotoPaint node to cover our poster board. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit here. I'm just using my mouse wheel and middle clicking to move this around. And we'll get set up a little bit better. So this is going to kind of go over here because this is going to be sort of the final part of our image. And then these are going to be feeding in later on. So we'll just kind of adjust those in that way. And then let's go ahead and add a RotoPaint node after our zombie footage where the zombie is present. So you can come up here and go into your RotoPaint, click that, it'll drop that on for you. And if you had your read node selected, it would automatically hook it up, but you can also just drop it onto the pipe between the viewer and the read node. Okay? So now what I want to do is just start to clone the ground here and paint over what we see there for the poster board. So we can zoom in a little bit more. And you want to select your root over here in the RotoPaint, and we'll grab our clone tool. Okay? And to use this, you're going to need to control click and drag. Control click and left click to drag this out. And what's going to happen is wherever we're dragging to, that's where we're going to paint. Wherever we're dragging from, that's where it's going to sample from. So that's a pretty good distance right there. And I'll just start kind of painting over this poster board and its shadow. If we get the shadow taken care of, it's going to be a lot quicker to do the rest of it. Just be careful not to cover up that white line too much. And if you do, you can always go in and go where your brush tool is, click and hold, and there you find your eraser. And maybe we can make the size of this a little bit smaller, something like 10. And we'll just erase a little bit of that away to bring that white line back. Just like this. Okay, that looks pretty good. Remember, we're zoomed in at 2 times here. If we go to 1, that line looks great. Okay, so if we come in here, grab our clone tool again, we still have that same sample distance, so we can just click and paint these stripes in to cover this up. And I'm going to change my sample area now by control clicking and dragging here. And I don't want to get too far down below where my, like this, because it's getting close to the zombie and I don't want him to accidentally show back up in the shot. So you can just kind of control click and drag that out. And then if you get any really noticeable dots, you can just paint back over those really quickly. We just want to get a similar texture here to the ground around it. So you don't want to paint from a really far away area. And using these little circular motions is helpful to kind of break up any kind of patterns you might get if you're just painting in straight lines. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so that's almost painted over. Right there. Get up those last few little bits. And might have been easier to just paint over that new spot I had there. And what's great about this is it's going to sample what you already did, so that's really helpful. Now it looks like I have a few kind of darker pieces right there in the middle, so I can just sample from an area that's a little bit, let's see, maybe a little bit closer right in there, and just kind of break that up a little bit if you feel like that looks unnatural at all. Just like that. Maybe undo that one there. And you could spend all day trying to get this to look just like what it looked like before that poster board was laid down there. But honestly, if nobody ever knew it was there, you really wouldn't notice. It looks like a little oil stain. So now that that has been painted out, we need to go over to our RotoPaint node and adjust a few things. So right now we're on frame 1, but if we go to frame 2 it's back because these default to having a lifetime of the frame you painted them on. So we need to come in here and shift select all of the strokes we created and go into our lifetime tab of the RotoPaint node. And we'll come over here to where lifetime type is set to single frame and change it to all frames. So now if we scrub forward, you can see that those brush strokes are lasting. But something we're noticing now that you may have not noticed before, if I hit play, is that this shot very, very subtly and slightly pans down. So it is a really small movement, but it's going to be enough that anything that needs to stick to the ground, we're going to need to track, because you can see that our RotoPaint is staying still while our shot is very slightly moving down below behind that. So in the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to track this so that we can apply the tracking data to the transform tab of our RotoPaint node so that it's going to move along really nicely with the shot and we don't get these weird white lines. So stick around, and in the next lesson, I'll show you how to track and set up that tracking data to be used with our RotoPaint node.